Hi everyone. I'm going to give a brief explanation as to what the Raspberry Pi is. That's Raspberry Pi Pi. Basically, what the Raspberry Pi is a small $39 or $40 Canadian microcomputer that will actually allow you to run Linux. And being able to run Linux is an open source program that will allow you to do many things with this little device. In particular, you can run something called Kodi or XBMC, which is a media center. You can run something called Raspbian, which is an operating system. You can also run something called RetroPie, which will allow you to run old video games like Ataris and Nintendo. But what I'm going to do is just a quick demo of what this is. And this is actually called the Raspberry Pi 2 Model B. And I'll just go through some of the features that it has on board. As you can see, I've already got it configured and it's hooked up to a monitor. I'm not going to show you that right now, but what I have here is an audio out. So this is the audio out, which will allow to go to external speakers. You can also see that there's an HDMI capable connector. So that connector is actually connected up into a monitor that I have. However, the monitor does not have speakers, therefore I have to use external speakers for this case. Otherwise, you can actually hook this Raspberry Pi up to a TV and select your output for audio to be the HDMI out, and the volume and sound, etc., will come out of your speakers on your TV, or if you have a monitor with speakers, that'll work too. There's a micro power supply that is the equivalent of like the BlackBerry power supply. It's the small one. And in the case of this device, I've read online, I know this device only draws between 3.5 and 5 volts of power. And therefore, you can actually operate this little device for a year for the cost equivalent of, I've read somewhere, like a hamburger. But the other features of this device, it's got onboard CPU, etc. This particular configuration I have is just kind of sitting what I'm going to call naked, but there are cases you can buy for it to enclose it to protect it more. But you know, this is just sitting on my desktop, so I don't really mind that it's exposed. With the Model 2, Raspberry Pi 2, it's got 4 USB ports, and I'm just going to turn around. So in the 4 USB ports, you can see that I have an external keyboard and an external mouse connected. That's what those two black connectors are. Although I have connected a Wi-Fi keyboard and a Wi-Fi mouse to this, it will accept dongles, and it's actually plug and play, which is kind of cool. So I've put a mouse Wi-Fi dongle in here, Microsoft mouse dongle, and it worked immediately. What you can see there, I've got an 8 gig external USB thumb drive put in there, and that's how you can actually play some videos and some movies, music, etc., pictures. You can access directly on the Raspberry Pi itself, and you can see something flashing there. That is actually a Wi-Fi dongle that I've connected to the Pi that will allow me to connect to my home network wirelessly. That's the Edimax, actually pretty cheap on Amazon. I think 12 or 13 bucks, and it's considered the smallest USB Wi-Fi dongle you can purchase. There's also an Ethernet connector that will allow you to connect or make an Ethernet connection to your Raspberry Pi. I'm not really going to talk too much more about the Raspberry Pi, other than I'm going to include a couple more videos on my YouTube channel, Ottawa Guy, and I'm going to show what can be done with this device. But in a final statement, I'm just going to make a statement that, again, this thing can run multiple types of operating systems, Linux primarily, but one important point is the manner in which it runs the operating system is actually not really completely visible here, but you can see maybe a little something sticking out there a little bit. That's actually a micro SD card that you load the operating system onto, and this device is actually running from this micro SD that's been placed in here, and that allows me to actually configure this Raspberry Pi in multiple ways by configure it onto an SD card, and then you simply just power the device off, put the SD card in, and depending on how you have that SD card configured, that's what the Raspberry Pi will execute. And I mentioned before, one of the things that this will do is it will emulate all old Nintendo, Atari 2600, Game Boy. It's called RetroPie. Again, it will run all old games. There's another that's just basically a Linux operating system called Raspbian that has a web browser. You can do other things, and this is actually fully programmable with a programming language called Python. And there's these data pins that are kind of lined up all here, and you can actually put sensors on this, and you can connect up different jumper wires and connect to external devices, etc. You can actually plug an external USB drive into this device, and then you can access all of your media and play it to any external output like a TV or monitor, etc. So again, that is a quick demo of the Raspberry Pi 2 Model B. And some of my further videos, I will go into more of what you see on the screen when you're running different utilities on this Raspberry Pi. So thank you for watching, and bye-bye.